Hello, guys. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man, and today I am in St. Louis, Missouri, with the owner of AccuPix. I'm partnered with them through our mail-to-flip.com for marketing to get more leads, which is the name of the game. Leads, leads, leads. If your phone is not ringing, you're probably not doing deals, or if you're not ringing sellers' phone numbers. So I wanted to share with you. They were kind enough to fly me out because it's been a business relationship that has been really good for me personally and financially from doing a few deals. I'm not doing enough. That's part of the reason I'm out here to talk to a marketing genius. Jeff is the owner of AccuPix, and he has a lot of information on why you should do more direct mail. And we've already discussed a lot of things, and we're going to be here to definitely share with you some of those same exact techniques. He has 30 years in the business, and this is going to be worth its weight in gold. It's going to be one of the better interviews I've ever done on my channel. So how's it going, Jeff?
Going good.
Well, just to start with a basic question, who is Jeff?
Well, as he said, my name is Jeff Charlton, and I've been doing this for 30 years. In fact, April 1st this year was my 30th anniversary in the printing business. We own a company. The company name is actually Graphic Connections, and he's correct when he says we own AccuPix. That's a brand we created. We also have a bunch of other brands. Our primary focus is direct mail, and specifically for the real estate business. We've been doing direct mail for real estate investors for about 15 years now. We service all types of industries and all types of companies, and we help them create marketing materials, primarily printed marketing materials, to help them promote their business. And I sort of got into real estate as an investor. Well, I shouldn't say sort of. I intentionally got into real estate as an investor about 30 years ago also, just buying houses kind of on the side for rental properties. And I saw it as just a way to kind of have a secondary passive income and build some wealth for retirement slowly. I was going to buy one house a year for 30 years, and then that was my goal to retire. And I did that I bought about 10 houses in about 2 years, so it went a lot quicker than one a year. But then our business here grew, and real estate, I couldn't do both. So I sort of put the real estate on hold and have been focusing on printing and direct mail ever since. But because I'm in real estate, I know the lingo, I know what you guys go through, I understand the ins and outs and everything, and I stay in touch. Most of our customers, we have customers all over the United States doing this, and so we hear about what works in different areas and their problems and challenges. Every market is different. Every list is different. Every mail piece is different. So we hear that stuff, and what works in one area may not work in another area. We try to take all that information and give that back to our customers to help them come up with campaigns that are going to work for them in their area. That's what we do, and I enjoy it. I don't know if I'm the greatest expert in the world, but I've been doing this a long time. I've written several books. I've written pamphlets and special reports. I'm really a student of marketing. I'm always learning myself as well as trying to impart that wisdom on other people. So we try to turn that into things that work for our customers.
Well, Jeff was sharing with me yesterday, and I knew this, and I find myself leaving money on the table because, as many of you all know, I preach banner signs and cold call and all that stuff, and I do preach the direct mail. But what he said on yesterday, and he don't probably know he said this to me, and it's like, man, yeah, you're dead right, is that if you think about it, you have all types of people that own real estate, but a large percentage of people that own real estate are older. And when I say older, I'm talking to maybe 60 and older. And they read their mail. People like my mom, who's 77 at the date of this video, she's going to read every piece of her mail, right? And a lot of those individuals, I guess you call them baby boomers, they own a lot of real estate in this country. And so if you're not doing direct mail, you're leaving money on the table. And it's just that simple. The other thing about direct mail that Jeff and I discussed in his team is that I don't care what form of marketing that you do, you have to be committed to it. You have to have an action plan on what your budget will allow you to do and stick to it, and the results will prove out. Now, how you do it does matter. And one of the things that Jeff focuses on and his company is standing out from the competition. You don't want to end up in the trash can, as I like to say, or you want to reduce your chances of ending up in the trash can, or at least letting your message being read is the main thing, and just let the numbers take over from there. So with that being said, Jeff, just share. You shared with me a couple of stories of some of your previous clients. You were talking about the lady that was doing $65 million in sales as far as the real estate agent because of direct mail was her main use as far as marketing or generating leads. If you could just share that story with me again, with the people that are watching this particular
I'll
video.
be happy to do that. Before I get into that, I just want to expound on one thing he just said, and that's the thing about the older people owning real estate. The key is, especially in the real estate investing world, your primary prospect is going to be people that have high equity, that have lived in their house for a long time. The house maybe needs a lot of repairs. And people that tend to be older tend to be in that situation. They tend to own their house free and clear, or maybe have high equity. They haven't cleaned the place up or updated in 20, 30 years. And that's the kind of houses you want to buy. So, and those kind of people tend to not be real electronically savvy. Some are. I mean, my mom has a cell phone. She's also 77 years old. Mm-hmm. She has a cell phone, but she can use it to text and look at Facebook, and that's about it. But I guarantee you, she is not responding to any kind of a marketing campaign on her cell phone. But she absolutely goes to her mailbox and she picks up a pile of mail. If you got a pile of mail, these are a bunch of small postcards, and you're flipping through it. What he said is that the goal is to stay out of the trash can. You got 3 piles of mail when somebody goes through the mail. They got the pile that they're going to save for later to go read because they want to really read that. They got the first pile is a pile they want to read right now. Second pile is a pile they save for later, and the third pile is the trash pile, which is either in a pile and then in a can, or they sort it over the trash can and throw it right in the can. So your goal as a marketer is to get the mail to stay out of the trash can and go in one of those other 2 piles. And ideally, you want them to be in the first piles because they want to read it right away, but at least stay out of the trash can. And you do that with being unique and being regular. Now, what he asked me to talk about is a story I was telling about a real estate agent. So, and this is really the essence of marketing in general, but it's especially direct mail marketing. So we have a local real estate agent we've been doing business with for a long time in St. Louis here, and she's an agent, not an investor, but the concept is the same. She was the leading agent in St. Louis for years, selling $65 million a year in real estate. And she did this for years, and we mailed 30,000 postcards for her every single month, like clockwork, and we called them farming postcards. They were just 8.5 by 5.5 postcards that basically said, I'm a great real estate agent, you used to do business with me. And she did all different types of things, but it was the same sort of message all the time. Did that every month. And then every single time she sold a house, she did a just sold postcard to about 1,000 people. And every time she listed one, she did a just listed house to about 1,000 people. And she did about 260 houses a year. So that was about 500 individual small mailings plus these monthly 30,000 pieces of mail. Spent a lot of money on mail, no question. But she sold $65 million a year of real estate doing that. Well, around 2008, she sold her business. Right before that, she retired, sold her business to another agent. And right about the same time she sold it, the 2008 real estate crash hit, and everything went in the tank. And the person she bought it from stopped doing the mailings. The person that bought it from her stopped doing the mailings. And because of, she thought, well, we can't afford it. Our sales are down. We got to save some money. So she decided to save money on marketing, which, by the way, a lot of people do that, and that's the worst mistake you can ever make in business, is to cut your marketing when times get tough. You should increase your marketing, not cut your marketing. But that's another discussion. But anyway, long story short, she did that, and apparently, I don't know the exact deal they made, but I know she was making payments. The new agent was making payments to the old agent for her business. She stopped making those payments because she didn't have the money. So lo and behold, the old agent comes back into the mix, contacts me and says, we're getting back into the situation. because we're not getting paid, and we're going to go back to doing what we were doing before. And we're going to pay for the mailings out of our pocket. And so you're going to be dealing with me. So we did that, went right back to the old program, and lo and behold, their sales had gone from $65 million down to $20 million. Within about 3 months, they were right back up to where she started, on a pace to do about $65 million a year. And they've been doing that ever since, and the numbers have held steady. And she said to me, and I'll never forget this, number one, it was the most stark contrast in what happens with direct mail and without direct mail. And I asked her, well, can you track your leads to the direct mail? And she said, well, I can't tell you exactly because we don't do really good tracking, but we do know when we're mailing all the time, the phone's ringing all the time. And as soon as we stop mailing, the phone stopped ringing. And we just know we sell way more when we do it. So they have a budget set out, and they just spend that money every single month like clockwork, and they just do it. It's a key part of their business, and that's what makes it work. Now, granted, they're dealing with some big numbers, so they have the money. At $65 million, I don't know what their commissions are, but it's a lot. But when they started, in fact, she told me this story too. When she started 30 years ago, she was walking for dollars in her own subdivision, literally going door to door and putting her business card at people's doors and knocking on doors and introducing herself to people to kind of get going. And then over the years, whenever she would make a sale, she would reinvest that sale in marketing, mainly direct mail marketing, and she would expand her farm a little bit to the point where it eventually got up to 30,000 pieces of mail. And it covered almost the whole St. Louis area. So that's, to me, the most quantifiable story I've ever seen in my career of before direct mail and after direct mail and back to it again and what impact it can have.
Yeah, so she basically grew to that. She started out what she could afford, but she was committed to it. Like she can't tell you what the numbers are. All she knows is her phone is ringing, which is the main thing. All right. Now, when you guys originally reached out to me, I had thought about the idea of putting a picture of the house that I was targeting on the mailer that I was sending out. And I tried to do it. It took me number one, I had to figure out how I wanted to do it. And once I did that, it was taking me about 30 minutes per postcard to do it. And so I said, no way, this is not going to be efficient. It's not going to be worth it. So these guys reached out to me 2 or 3 years later. And when I saw it, and they basically are the Henry Fords of creating this type of product where they're combining existing technology to place the actual owner's property on each of the mailers, that's an attention getter.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about is AccuPix mailers. That's what these are. So we wrote software to go into Google and take the Google Street View image of every house from the list and pull that from Google and put it on a postcard. Or a letter, can be either way. We do them with letters too. This here's a letter. It shows through a window, so that's the person's house right there. And all we did was look, and we had one of our customers, what gave me the idea is I had a customer doing the same thing you're doing. He came to me with 100 pictures that he had taken himself. And he said, can you print these on postcards? And we said, yeah, we can do that. And we had the software to do that already. So I talked to my guy, my programmer that does this, and he figured out how to do it. And he came back and said, this is really easy. We can do this no problem at all with our software. And so it gave me an idea. I said, I know most people aren't going to go out and take 100 pictures. But if I could go to Google, already has all those pictures. If I go to Google and take those pictures and put it together with our software, we could have something there. So that's what we did. We paid some programmers to write that software, and we've been doing that for a couple of years. And it works. It gets an increased response. And the reason it works is because it's different. When you get a pile of mail, and I own some properties. I still have.
Let me hold the pictures, and you hold those, and see the difference.
So I own some properties just for rental property, and again, it's not my full-time business; it's a passive thing. But I get mail all the time because my properties are they're about $100,000 value properties, and I have high equity in them. So we're on everybody's mailing list, so I get mailings every single week. This pile of postcards, and this is just a small pile, but they're all small postcards, and they're all different ones, but they don't stand out. You got a yellow postcard with some black type on it. Sometimes people will put their logo on it. This guy's got a guy's picture, but none of them are really. They don't stand out. And then you get some that people are going to be super cheap. They go to somebody called Click the Mail, who's owned by the post office, and they print the cheapest possible thing they can print which this is so small and
What
so
did you call that one?
It's called, this is click the
No,
mail.
I'm saying, what did you say that was the
cheapest, the
worst?
This is the worst postcard I've ever gotten in my career. Okay. And it's bad for a lot of reasons. Number one, you can't read it. It's microscopic. I mean, granted, I'm old and I need reading glasses, but even with my reading glasses, when you look at this copy, it's blurry and fuzzy. You can't even read it. There's no headline. You don't know what it's about. The only thing you see is the logo of the company that printed it, Click the Mail, which they're not in the real estate business, they're in the printing business. So somebody bought this and they're essentially advertising the printer. They're trying to flip houses, but they're not doing themselves any good. I guarantee you, whoever sent this out didn't get one response, guaranteed. Okay, because there's no way anybody would respond to this. But they're paying money to send this out. Well, it doesn't cost that much money to send something like this. Okay, that much more money. It's a little more, and I'm not going to tell you this is more than this, but it's not a lot more. It's a little more, but a lot more value. And then we'll do in different sizes. Like this is just a larger postcard. Why would I do that? Because if I got a stack of postcards here. Stack of mail.
Let me see that green one. That big green one.
Oh, yeah, this is an oversized one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you got a stack of mail. Let's just say this is your stack of mail. And you got some letters and stuff in there, whatever. Here's a letter. Let's say you got some letters. And you're flipping through it. Well, it's real easy to not necessarily notice a postcard, especially if you got a bunch of stuff here. It could stick to the piece of mail. If you got something like this that's bigger.
Or this.
Yeah. There's no way you're missing that, okay? And when you're flipping through it, too, it's all about getting somebody's attention just for a couple of seconds. Because what they're doing is they're over the trash can, they're flipping through. What's that? What's that? Oh, that one's trash. That's how much time you got. Well, you're flipping through and you come to something like this, and it's got a picture of their house. I guarantee you, they may not notice the headline, but they're going to notice that picture of their house. And they're at least going to stop and say, that's my house. And give it a couple of seconds. What is this? Who's got a picture of my house? It might even be a negative response, but it's a response, okay? Because they're stopping and they're going to say, what is that? I'm going to put that aside. Because don't we save pictures? If you take some pictures of your family or whatever on your phone, you don't delete those, you save them. Got a picture of your house, even if it's not a good picture, you're probably going to save that at least to look at later. So we got their attention, all right? That's the goal number one, to get their attention. The second goal is to hope that they get enough attention that they'd say, oh, I'm going to call that guy, But that's what it's all about. So, and you can do something even bigger. Now, the bigger it gets, the more expensive it is, but this is what I call an oversized postcard. Same idea, different design, but it's definitely something that's going to stand out. Costs a little more, but not a lot more. By the way, incidentally, the postage is the same as a letter. Whether it's a letter, this postcard or this postcard, the postage is exactly the same.
I don't think we did enough emphasis on this letter. See, this letter still, it has a window with the picture just like it does on the postcard, if that's your preference on how you want to target, so.
Right. So it's just being different. That's what we're trying to do, is be different, stand out in the mail, because your biggest competition these days in the market, if you're interested in flipping houses, your number one problem is competition in the marketplace. Because in every city in America, there are guys like Ty, they're teaching people how to flip houses. They're everywhere, okay? And every week there are new people coming in the market, probably in your market, learning how to flip houses. And they're all being taught to do direct mail. And so all of a sudden you got more and more people. That's why I got a pile of mail in my mailbox. There's not a week that goes by that I don't get at least 5 mailings every single week to sell my properties. I only got 4 properties too. And I got 4 properties. I'm getting at least 5 pieces of mail every single week. And I save them all because I'm in the direct mail business. So I got piles of these things. But point is, if I was really interested in selling those houses, who would I pick? None of those stand out. So I'm going to pick somebody that's going to stand out, the one that I saved. And there's a better chance I'm going to take something like this just because it's different. Or maybe something like that.
For your later pile.
Exactly.
Let's talk about this. And guys, I can't stress to you enough, the experience that we're dealing with right here is just, you can't put a price on it. It's basically like a course we're going through right now. Let's talk about frequency.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. So before I get into that specifically, frequency, I want to talk about the basics of marketing. And this is important whether you're flipping houses or you're going to sell anything. And it's a concept that marketing is all about putting your name in front of people often enough so that when it comes time for them to do what it is you want them to do, to buy what you want to sell, whatever it might be, they think of you first. That's it. That's marketing 101. It's the same reason why Bed Bath & Beyond sends a postcard to my house every week, one of these large postcards, that's a coupon, 20% off, and it's the same thing every week. And they do that week after week after week. Well, why are they doing that? They're doing it because it works, because they're staying top of mind. They're keeping their name in front of me over and over and over again. So if I ever want to go buy towels or whatever it is they sell, I'm definitely going there. I probably got a coupon laying around somewhere in my house. So real estate's the same thing. So remember I talked about competition. Your biggest problem in real estate is the competition from all these people learning how to flip houses. But the good news is most of those are what I call one and done. They're people that get in the business, they go to a seminar, or they learn from somebody, they get all excited, and they want to go do something, and somebody says you got to do a mailing. So they go out and buy a list, and they mail 100 pieces of mail or 250 pieces of mail one time, and you never hear from them again. They're gone, okay? Because they're not serious. They're really not trying to start a business. They're trying to get rich quick, and it doesn't work that way. So they're in and they're out. But that's your competition. But because there's so many of those people, there's always somebody, every time one drops out, there's another one coming in. And that's why I get hundreds of postcards for my 4 properties. Well, the good news is, if you're here to stay and you're serious about your business, you need to hit people over and over and over again so they start to recognize your name as a brand. Other reason why you need to do that is because people aren't always ready to buy at the time that you send something, okay? That doesn't mean they're not going to be ready 6 months from now or a year from now, okay? So remember we talked about sending something that's memorable. So if you can get something like a picture with your house on it that they put aside to think, I don't want to sell today, but I might be thinking about that in 6 months. Maybe they just inherited a property, but they're not ready to do, because of the legalities or whatever, they're not ready for it, so they got to wait. But eventually they will be ready for it. Well, hopefully they'll put your one mailer aside, and then 6 months from now they call you. So frequency hits you both. It's important to outsell the competition, basically, to stand out. It's also important so people will remember you in the future, because people are coming at all different times. So frequency is very important. You have to be unique and you have to be frequent.
All right, so just to get a little deeper on that, so when we say frequency, say you have 3 lists. You have list A, list B, list C. What would you suggest, or what have you seen as far as, say, we're going to mail to list A in October, list B in November, list C in December, back to list A in January, or how would you go about that?
So there's 2 different schools of thought on frequency. Okay, school of thought number 1 is I want to hit somebody a whole bunch of times in a short period of time to try to really get their attention right now. When you do that, and when I talk about that, I'm saying, let's say you buy a list and you want to hit them 5 times, 10 days apart for 5 mailings in a row. So you mail them day 1, then day 10, then day 20, 30, 40, 50. So you hit them 5 times over basically 50 days. That strategy is when you're really trying to get the people that are ready right now to pay attention to you over all the competition, because you're trying to get them to see you over and over again over the competition. That's a viable strategy, and we have people doing that. There's a secondary strategy of people that are more long-term thinkers. They say, no, I'm going to hit you once a month. I have a customer that hits people once a month for 12 months. Hits them with 12 mailings. But he drills his list down to a very tight list, and it's a pretty prime list, and then he just hits them over and over and over again because he knows that probably eventually those people are going to want to do something. That's a different strategy. There's not one better than the other. It just depends on where you want to go. If you want leads right now, as fast as you can, probably doing the first one where you're hitting them more often is better. A really good strategy is to do both. Maybe you hit people on the same list. You hit them, let's say you hit them 3 times in a row close, maybe 3 times over the course of a month, and then you put them on a longer term drip. So maybe you hit them once every month and once every other month for the next year or 2. That's another strategy. Now, granted, it costs more money to do that. The more you hit them, the more it costs. But the point is, you're trying to get people's attention to get them to say yes to you. The beauty of real estate is that when you make a deal, there's a lot of money in it. And that's what makes direct mail really work for real estate, because when you do finally get a hit, it's a $10,000 or $20,000 hit, and that can pay for a whole lot of marketing. And that's the reason why hitting people multiple times is so important, because some of the best deals are people that you might have to hit 5 or 6 times because they're not necessarily ready, but when they eventually do get ready, maybe the house is really trashed and maybe it hasn't been updated in 30 years and there's a lot of equity, but they just want to get out. Maybe they inherited a property and they just don't want to deal with it, so they just say, if you come in and say, here's cash, just walk away, that makes them happy, and they don't even have any idea what the market value is, and you can go and flip that house and make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. $50,000 hit profit is a lot. It pays for a lot of marketing. So
a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to expound on what he's saying is that today everything's okay in their life. 6 months from now, that tenant that they had in there for the last 10 years, only thing they know, the tenant hadn't been calling them, they've been paying the rent. Now the tenant wants to move out and they go over and, oh my God, I don't have the money to fix this house. Or 6 months from now, me and my wife are great. She called me cheating on her. And now we're getting a divorce.
I have an example of that because I told you I was a real estate investor. Well, about 15 years ago, I had a couple 2-family flats down in the city of St. Louis, and not the greatest neighborhood, but they were really old. They were like 150-year-old brick houses, and they were old. They need a lot of work. But they were making money for me. They were doing okay. And I had those for about 10 years, and everything was fine. All of a sudden, I got a bad tenant. And a guy trashed. It was a 2-family, so it was the upstairs one. He trashed it, and he didn't pay me for a year. And I wasn't very good at kind of keeping up with that, so I didn't even realize I wasn't getting paid for a few months. And by the time I realized it I couldn't find the guy. He like disappeared. He just flat out moved out and quit paying, left all stuff, and just moved out. Well, I eventually went through an eviction process, but it took several months. It was a total pain, cost me some money, and it soured me on the whole thing. And I just wanted nothing to do with that property anymore. And on top of that, the city of St. Louis did annual inspections, and every time they did an inspection, they found something wrong. And I was constantly have to go down there and fix all this stuff. And if you've had old places, you know, when you fix something old, it's hard to fix usually. You got old pipes, you got old wires, you got everything. So I went from being happy for 10 years to being really unhappy. And at the time, there weren't guys like Ty out offering cash for houses, so I had no choice but to put it up for sale. At least I didn't know anybody that was doing that. So I put it up for sale the regular way. I eventually sold it, but it was a total hassle. The whole thing was a total hassle. I hated it. If somebody walked up to me with cash and said, here's $20,000, I'd have taken half what I got for it just to get out, just to walk away.
That was total motivation.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even about the money with you.
Right.
You just was done with
Right.
it, you know, and that's it. But, you know, like I say, guys didn't exist in large numbers like that. But if he was received as a postcard, he'd been right on time.
Right. Yeah, I was getting no mail or anything at that
Yeah.
time because the flipping business wasn't like it is today. So anyway, the point is, back to the point about frequency, is if you hit people over and over again, you get them a chance to meet them where they are, and hopefully they remember you. So it's, you know, it's uniqueness and frequency. Those are the two most important things. Do something different than other people and hit them over and over again so they remember you. It's that simple.
All right. Well, from your experience of dealing with investors all over the country, what type of list would you say probably is the most effective type of list? We know the different types, but we'll go ahead
Right.
and go into
So
that.
effective depends on where you are in your real estate development and your knowledge of the business. If you're a beginner, which I know most people watching these videos are, the best list you should use is a absentee owner, out-of-state absentee owner with high equity. You put those three things together, and we can help you get that, or if you have your own list source, you can get that as well. And the reason being is when it's absentee and out-of-state, what that means is they don't live in the property and they live in another state. That means they're probably renting it out, or it's vacant, one or the other. And then if it's high equity, you know that they've got some room to work with it, so you can offer them a lower price, and there's a good chance they'll take it. Those three things together are you have the best chance, especially as a beginner, to make an easy deal where you can literally walk up to somebody and say, here's my offer, and they can take it, and they're gone. You don't have to worry about banks, you don't have to worry about loans, none of that stuff. You just offer the money, they say yes, and they walk away. So for a beginner, absolutely that's the best list. Now I will tell you, there's a lot of people mailing to that list. That's another reason why we're back to the point I made before, is you have to be frequent and you got to be unique.
Yeah.
But these days, I don't care what list you pick, there's a lot of people mailing to it.
Of course.
I'd say the secondary list, and I would not recommend this for beginners, but if you go to the foreclosure or probate, those are harder to get. Well, let me break those up in two. Probate, there are companies that offer probate lists. They don't have it in every state and every municipality. A lot of probate lists, you've got to go to the courthouse to do it yourself. That's a lot of work. It's easy, but it's a lot of work. You've got to physically go there and go through the records and everything to get the list. And that's a little delicate because when somebody's probated, usually somebody's died, and usually there's a lot of emotions when somebody dies, and so you got to be careful with that. You're dealing with some upset people. It's just not the easy. It's not as clean as a high equity absentee owner that just says, I want out of this thing. But it's a good list. The foreclosure list, those are harder to get. And here's a piece of advice I'll give you. There's two different kinds of foreclosure lists. There's the kind that are true credit bureau foreclosure lists where you know people, for sure you know they're in financial trouble because it's on their credit report that they're not paying their bills. Then there is what they call quasi foreclosure list, or they're lists created with an algorithm, and those are more common than the actual foreclosure list, and they're a lot cheaper. If you're not paying at least 30 cents a name for your foreclosure list, you're probably not getting a true foreclosure list. They're probably not going to the credit bureaus. And usually you have to have a minimum of 1,000 units to even go to the credit bureau. They won't even take it. So if it's less than that, it's one of those algorithm lists, which what they do is they take all the data they can gather online and they sort of make an assumption that somebody's in financial trouble, but they don't know that for sure. So when you have that kind of a list, especially if you send an aggressive foreclosure mailer, and when I say aggressive, that says something like, hey, you're about to lose your house, something like that, you're going to get a lot of people that are mad that are going to call you back, and they're going to say, what do you mean they're going to be mad. They're going to be threatening you. They're going to tell you they're going to, report you to somebody for harassment. So you got to be careful with those kind of lists. I don't recommend using aggressive mail pieces of those kind of lists for that exact reason, because you don't want the grief. But if you really are interested in foreclosure, make sure your list is pulled from a credit bureau. Yeah, it costs more money, but those are the good lists. But they cost more. They cost at least 30 cents a piece.
And you also need to understand, if you're going to target pre-foreclosure list, you have to understand that, well, hopefully you're fortunate enough to get some that the equity is just there, but a lot of times it's not.
Right.
And you're going to have to go through a short sale process, and that's another video for another day that I don't even really fool with.
It's
I don't have the
complicated.
patience.
Yeah,
I don't have the patience for it.
It takes a long time.
It takes a long time just to get an answer from the bank as far as an offer that may not work for you. When we say a long time, it could easily be 30 to 120 days just to get a response from a bank, and they come back with an offer or a price that they'll take, and it may still not work. You spend all this time on it, so enter at your own risk.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is you know your area, you know where you live. Find an area that you know fits the type of house you want to buy, and then look in that geographical area and try to look for people that have at least high equity. Okay, absentee's better. The only reason I always say absentee over owner occupied is because if someone doesn't live in the house, especially if they live in another state, and they have a little hassle come up, their motivation might go from nowhere to really high really quick, just like the story I told.
Correct.
But if you're not there, like at least that house, I was in the same city, I could drive down there. If I'm in another state, I'm not going to drive down there. So if you got something that goes wrong, what do? Then you got to contract with somebody. It's even a bigger hassle. So the out-of-state absentee owners are good, but it's a limited list. So if you want to do big numbers, the more you drill down to your list, the lower the numbers get. So if you want big numbers, you got to back off that and not drill down so far. So maybe you don't take out-of-state. Maybe it's just local absentee, or maybe you just look for high equity.
All right. Well, let's get into budget.
All right.
And I'm sure you've seen, like you were talking about the real estate agent, but I'm sure with the number of investors that you deal with around the country, you've probably seen people start at this amount and as far as a monthly or weekly spend up to this amount. Just because you're not selling pencils here, guys. If you're doing direct mail and you're trying to sell pencils, which is a very inexpensive product, then yeah. But one deal, as we said, with direct mail could pay for maybe 2 years of direct mail or just marketing in period for your entire budget for your company. So let's get into maybe a minimum amount. That's going to vary from the individual in the market or whatever, what you're trying to do, but just generalizing here. Let's just get an idea of a budget that someone should expect to spend and be dedicated to it over what time frame.
All right, so let me back into that in a different way. All right, so let's talk about numbers and response rates. We do business with people all over the country, and I can tell you, for the most part, the average response rate for direct mail in this industry is between 0.5% and 1%. Now, we have some mailers that a lot of times do better than that, but let's just use these averages to start with, 0.5% to 1%. So 1% of 100 is 1, all right? So that's one number you got to think of, is what is your initial response rate from your mailing? Those are people that are just raising their hands saying, I might be interested in getting an offer from you. That's all you have at that point. Now you got to look at what's your closing rate, okay? Which means how many of those people that raise their hand and say, I might be interested, how many of those does it take for you to actually close a deal? All right, I can tell you the national average there is about 1 in 10. So that's about 10% of the time you're closing the deals. So if you go backwards again, if you want to get one deal, you're probably going to have to get about 10 people to raise their hand. Well, if you get 1% response, how many is that going to take you to get 10 leads? It's going to take you 1,000 mailers, all right? So if you want to have a chance to close one deal, using kind of averages I'm talking about, you're probably going to have to mail about 1,000 pieces of mail in order to end up with one deal. Now, again, these are just rough averages, okay? Everybody's different, because I've had people mail 500 and get 2 deals, okay? But that's not the norm. The norm is usually the other way, where they get fewer deals than they think, because it is a process. You have to hit a lot of people to get them to raise their hand. So, to your point about budget, I'm saying if you're not going to mail at least 1,000 pieces of mail, you're probably wasting your time, because you're just not going to get enough numbers to really work the deals, okay? If you're that tight, then you probably ought to look at some other means to try to get some deals that are more manual, whether it's knocking on doors or calling people personally or driving for dollars, whatever it might be, until you get some money built up to start paying for mailings. But 1,000, depending on what you mail, and in mail you have 3 variables. You have the quantity, you have the type of mailer, and you have the type of postage you mail. Those 3 things affect the price dramatically, okay? On average, expect to spend between about 50 cents and $1 per mailer. And I will say a letter, get that letter? This letter, let's say if you're going to mail 1,000 of these, it's going to cost you about 89 cents. I think that's our number, okay? So about 90 cents. Just call it $1 for...
So $900.
Yeah, $900 for 1,000 of them. If you're going to mail these little small postcards, you're going to spend about 50 cents, so about $500 roughly, okay? And that's plus or minus.
What about the big one, green one over there?
These big ones, these are a little more. They're about halfway between. So this is going to be around $700 to do that.
Okay.
So the range is, let's just say, $500 to $900, 50 cents to 90 cents if you're at 1,000. Now, if you get up to 20,000, the numbers get way lower than that. But most beginners are at the lower end of that range. So now we see all the time, and we see this all the time, unfortunately, is people mail 100 pieces of mail, because our minimum is 100, and I don't recommend 100 ever. But we see it all the time, because people get into this and they say, what's the least I can do to
make $1 million?
Right. Okay. So I'll do 100, okay? Well, remember my numbers. 1% of 100 is 1, okay? What do you think you're going to do with 1 lead, okay? If you even get 1 lead. And the problem is, when you're doing numbers that small, the statistics don't work. The percentages don't work when they're that small. Technically, you have to have at least 5,000 pieces of mail to generate what they call a statistically valid result. And which means the 1%, you could use 1% as my true average. Anything less than that, it's not an average. It's just luck more than anything. So back to your point, if I was getting into this business, if I was starting new, I would say, what can I afford to spend every month for marketing, no matter what, okay? And whether you got to put it on your credit card or you got to get a loan, maybe go get a small business loan. Ty and I were talking about this last night.
Second job.
Yeah, second job.
Drive for Uber, Lyft.
Right. I mean, but commit to a number and do it every single month for at least a year. Okay, if you don't do that, you're really not working a serious business. Because if you think about, we were talking about this last night, go to any strip mall in America and look at all these little stores that started. You see them all the time. And you see these stores coming and going. And people, to open one of those stores, that's not some small thing. These people are investing thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to go open a little small retail store to hopefully have their own business. In this real estate business, you can get started for pennies compared to that, okay? You don't have to spend that kind of money, but you do have to spend some money. It's either spend the money for marketing and let somebody like me do it, or don't spend the money and get off your butt and go work the streets, okay? That's your 2 choices, okay? And both of those are good. When I first started my printing business 30 years ago, that's what I did. I didn't have a lot of money, so I got on the phone and I made cold calls all day long. I had some days where I spent 10 consecutive hours making cold calls and I didn't get one single appointment in 10 hours. But then there were other times that I'd pick up the phone and I'd get 4 appointments in a row. But I just kept doing it until I got one. And then that one, then I got an order. And then I had some profit, and then I got another one. And then I could afford to start doing a little bit of marketing and build it up. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a slow period of time. But I built from there to what I have now, which we have 38 employees. And we've got 12,000 square feet, and we've got a viable business. So you can do the same thing in real estate. You don't have to mortgage your house to do it. You can do it for a relatively small amount of money. But it's not free.
Mm-hmm. This is it's a marathon, not a 100-meter race.
Right.
It's a marathon, not a 100-meter race, but the marathon can be very, very rewarding. All right, so let's talk about the starter kit.
Okay.
And
so we're putting together right now. So remember we talked about the competition, okay? Well, there's 2 levels of competition. You've got the competition to get the leads in the first place. That's to get people to raise their hand and say, I might be interested. Once you get people to raise their hand, the second level of competition is getting them to actually say yes to you over the competition. Because most people that are interested in selling their house call more than one person. So let's say they call 3 people. Well, you're not competing with 2 other people to get them to say yes to your offer. Well, right now in this industry, there's not a whole lot of support anywhere for that part of this process. Okay, most people don't have business cards, they don't have any professional material, they don't have anything. So what we've decided to do, we're putting together right now, this is not even done yet, we're still in the process of putting this together, but we're close. We're putting together a starter kit for beginners primarily to help them to look professional in the eyes of when they have people raising their hand when they're trying to close the deals. That starter kit's going to include some business cards. It's going to include a logo for you. If you don't have a logo, we can get you a logo, all part of the package. You're going to get business cards, letterheads, envelopes, and we've also got an option to create we're created for you, a nice 8-page brochure that's very professional looking, that's fully written, fully ready to go, that's got your name on it, your new logo and everything we create for you, and then also a 9x12 envelope to mail that. So when you get a lead, not only are you going to call them up and say, hey, I'd like to set up an appointment, but you're going to either mail them or hand it to them, a real nice package that makes you look professional. So you may be the guy just working out of your garage, just starting out, but you're going to now have something that's a very professional looking package that is first class. And as I said, it's not really been done yet, so I don't even have anything to show you yet. It's still on the drawing board. But
stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Ty will have, very shortly, he's going to have samples and PDFs and everything. You can see everything laid out. But the point is, we're going to help you not only get the leads, we're going to help you close the leads. Because I promise you, if you're competing with 2 other people and you send a nice brochure and a very professional looking thing and the other 2 guys don't have anything, you got a much better chance of them saying yes to you.
Let's talk about GCP. GC Power Mail.
Right. GCP for short. So what that is, all right, we talk about innovation. Okay, so we got another innovation that is unique. And when we first came up with AccuPix, we were the only ones in the United States doing this. To date, there's only one other company doing it, so we're only one of 2, and they copied us. But that's okay. We're still the leader in this industry. Well, we came up with another thing. What we're doing now is we're combining what we already have that works, which is AccuPix, and we're adding that a texting response option for someone to respond. And what I'm talking about there is, on the mail piece, it says right on there, to get an instant cash offer, text what they call a short code on your cell phone.
You can see it bigger on the green one, can't you?
Yeah. So it's a short code. So it says text VTMMZNZ to the short code number 48498. So the number is, so that's the phone number. So it's a 5-digit phone number. So the prospect looks at this and they say, and it says to get an instant cash offer. So think about this. They're going through the pile of mail. They see their house. Wow, that's interesting. Text to get an instant cash offer. That's interesting. I would like to know what somebody's going to pay for my house. I don't have to call anybody. I just pick up my cell phone and I send them a text message and I get an instant offer. So that's the offer, okay? So what they do, they pick up their cell phone, they type in the short code. It's short, we call it a short code because it's shorter than a regular phone number. And they get an instant, as soon as they do that, less than 4 seconds later, instantly they get a message back on their cell phone. That's whatever message you want to put on that. It could be that actual offer. If you're sophisticated enough, we can put that in the database, what the offer is going to be. Most people don't do that though. The people that are using this right now are saying, hello, Mr. Prospect. Thank you for responding. I'm in a meeting right now and I need to call you and ask you a couple of questions about your house and then I'll give you your instant cash offer. What's cool about this technology, there's 2 things. Number one, the technology, the text code is fully matched up to the list. It's personalized in that we take the mailing list that either we provide or you give us for your direct mail piece, we upload it to this texting system, and then it gives me the same list back with a unique code for every single name on that list. When they type in their own unique code, the message they instantly get back is personalized to them, which means it says, hey Bob, blah, 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 whatever you want to say, okay? And you can pull anything you want from that list. You can give them their house value, you can give them the property address, whatever you want to put in there. It pulls it, gives it to them on the text. At the same time they're getting that instant message, you're getting the instant lead, and this is the real power, okay? You get, via email, the instant lead. You get their name, address, and their accurate cell phone number. And how do we know it's accurate? Because they just gave it to you. They just texted from that cell phone number, so we know 100% of the time that's an accurate cell phone number. And you have legally 60 days to contact them on that cell number without getting in trouble for anything. The law says you can contact, since they gave you permission by texting, you have 60 days to either text them or call them, do whatever you want to do to follow up on that lead. And if you're really good, you'll get that email and you'll instantly pick up the phone while they're still thinking about it. You're going to pick it up and call them and say, hey, see, you just texted me. My name's Joe, blah, blah, blah. And you talk to them. Very powerful. And the reason this is powerful is because in today's world, we're all worried about identity theft. We're worried about salesmen calling us and bugging us. We're all getting unsolicited calls on our phone. We look at our call blocker, or we're blocking calls, or we're looking at the caller ID. They don't answer the phone, all that stuff. People are afraid to pick up the phone. They're afraid to answer the phone. But texting doesn't have that same stigma. People don't feel, because that hasn't been abused yet. Now, it may eventually be abused, but right now they have pretty strict laws. It's not legal for people to buy numbers and just text you coldly. You can't do that. Now, some people do that, but they're breaking the law. What we're doing here is not breaking the law. This is totally legal, okay? And we're finding, and this is just me telling you this, I'm telling you, we've had some people testing this for the last 2 or 3 months in big numbers, and they're getting on average 2 to 4 times better response using the texting technology than they were getting before that. In other words, wherever they were, let's say they're at 1%, we got guys getting from 2 to 4% response now, doing nothing but adding the texting option. So it's really cool, it's working, and it's another unique thing. And by the way, we have exclusive rights to this in the whole United States. It's a company in St. Louis that developed this technology. They've given us the rights in the real estate market, so we're the only ones you're going to find this in the whole USA, and it works. So
wow,
yeah.
And the pictures are still on the postcard of the owner's pictures, so it's combining both unique ways of standing out.
And you can do it on anything. You can put it on a handwritten letter, something like this you want, but the ones that are having the most success they're using AccuPix, and and by the way, they're using the small postcards too. As much as I like the big postcards, they're having good luck with just this postcard right here, okay? And I think it's because the combination of the texting and the picture, even though it's small, and it's bright yellow, even in a pile of mail, this bright yellow really stands out, even though it's a small postcard. So, and this is a fairly inexpensive thing to do, so.
You still have an option of putting a phone number there, because some people will still want to prefer to call.
Yeah, absolutely. We do texting and phone number, because you're still that element of the older people that are still they're not going to text. They're still going to pick up the phone. But we're finding about 75% of the responses when we do this come in via text, 25% come in by phone number.
So just to reiterate now, they're going to text you, you're going to receive an email, they're going to receive a reply text with whatever you wanted to say, but you'll still have on top of that the option to pick up the phone, because you have their actual cell to call them and say, hey, I just received a text, are you interested in me making an offer on your property, or whatever, what your spiel will be. You want to show them the yellow thing there, the big one there?
So we got some more innovation here. So we do a lot of things. So let me just go over some of these things we're doing, okay? So I'm always trying to come up with things that are different to make you stand out. So little things like envelopes, okay? We developed this, what I call the fake priority mail envelope. So it's not fake, it's a real envelope, but it looks like kind of a UPS envelope. And it's just, you put a letter in here, whatever you want to put in there, and it works. And it works because it stands out, it's unique. There's no way somebody's not going to open that envelope, okay? And we put a handwritten font on there, and we put an actual stamp on it. That's something we're not even talking about as postage. That's a whole other topic. But how you use your postage is very important too. But anyway, that looks real important, so that's something we developed. We've got another take on that is this AirX envelope, same kind of thing. It looks kind of like a FedEx, but it's AirX, okay?
I was thinking about VPS. I guess you couldn't go that close, could you?
You got to be careful. In fact, both these, by the way, you have to use full first-class mail, because the post office won't even accept them with any kind of discounted mail. So you have to put a full first-class stamp on these. That's the only way you can get them through the mail. But they work, okay? This is what I call the fake check mailer. I developed this a couple years ago. So what this is, and most of these ideas come from stuff I get in the mail for different industries, okay? This is awesome, okay? This is actually very similar to the texting thing in the offer. Here, it's meant to look like a government, or a check. It looks like a check. When you get that looks like there's a check in there, okay? That's by design, all right? And when you open it and you pull out the inside, it's a fake check. It's not a real check. And it says on there, they got a little letter here. And by the way, this is printed crooked on purpose. That's not a mistake. They just did that to be unique. And it basically says, you could turn this check into a real check if you call me. And then they just take it from there. They get people to call them. They take it from there to try to go make their deal. But what's cool about this, and I've had people actually use this with an actual offer, and they say, I'm going to offer you $65,250 for your property. And those are people that They go into the database. With today's technology, you can go into the database, you can see what the assessed value is, and they know, I'm going to offer 50% of the assessed value, and they just blindly do that, without even looking at the property. You know, you don't have to do that. It's up to you. But the point is, it gets opened, it's unique, it stands out from the crowd. These are my two newest ones, okay? This one here, you've probably seen, if you've been in this industry at all, you've seen yellow letters. That's a very popular thing. Well, this is a take on a yellow letter, only it's a giant yellow letter, okay? And it mails as a self-mailer just like this. So it goes in the mail, put two tabs on it, it mails just like that. So again, think of that pile of mail, you got a bunch of small postcards against this, that's definitely standing out. The other cool thing about this is, let's say the guy does save it and he throws it on his desk, and his desk is a big mess, and he's got a bunch of pile of stuff on his desk like my desk, and 6 months later he's trying to remember the guy that sent him that letter. Well, that's probably going to stand out on his desk. Probably going to be able to find it.
Let me read that. Let me read that. It says, I'm sending you a big letter because I want to make you a big cash offer for your property at 123 Inner Street.
Right.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So, you know, it's just different. Nobody's doing this. We're the only one. So here's another one. This is a take on, if you ever work for corporate America or any kind of a business where somebody leaves you, the secretary takes a message and she leaves you a little note. There's these little pink pads that are the while you're out pad, okay? I used to get these all the time, all right? Well, that's a giant while you're out pad, okay? And it's just something different to make you smile. We were using this in our printing business, sending to corporate America. It's an idea we came up with. We were sending this actually in a tube, not a flat mailer. And we would then follow up with a phone call and tell them, hey, I'm the guy that sent you that tube with the giant Post-it note or the giant while you're out pad in it. And the guys would say, oh yeah, I got that. They would always remember. And it's just a way to kind of connect with somebody. And they usually laughed about it because it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so it's just something different, just to be different, okay? So, you know, these are relatively new. We haven't done a lot of testing on these yet, but we've got a couple people doing them right now. That the initial results are good, but I can't say that these have been time tested for years. But the point is, if you keep doing this kind of stuff and you do it every single month and you keep trying to be unique, you're going to stand out amongst the crowd. It's that simple, okay? And they're going to remember you over the other guys. There's one other point to this whole thing, and different people respond to different things, okay? And that's a key point. You know, yeah, we live in a world of a lot of technology, and we're all carrying our cell phones with us everywhere we go, okay? So by adding this texting technology, we're going to appeal to the people that like to deal with their cell phones, okay? But that's not everybody, okay? We talked about the older people earlier. Older people, they may use cell phones, they may not, but they're probably not going to their cell phone to do everything. They're probably picking up the phone or reading their mail or whatever. You've got even millennials. There's a study that came out recently that said over 75% of millennials prefer direct mail to anything digital. Millennials are young people, okay? Mm-hmm. That surprises me. I would be shy, but that's a national study they did. The reason why is because it's different. Because millennials do everything on their phone. They live on their phone. Mm-hmm. So when they get a piece of mail, they're not used to that. So it's different. So they pay attention to it. Okay, which you wouldn't think would be true, but it is true. Okay, right. There's another statistic. Over 94% of people still walk to their mailbox and pick up their mail. Even with all the digital technology, we still go home. We go to our mailbox, and while we're walking back, we're either sorting while we're walking, or we stop at the trash can, or whatever we do, but we walk out there, we pick it up, and we walk back. That gives you a couple of seconds to get somebody's attention. You don't have that with email. You don't have that with Facebook. You ever look at Facebook? I mean, I'm not a Facebook guy. When I go to Facebook, I'm going like this, fast as I can move my finger. That's how fast I'm moving. I'm not seeing any ads. I'm not, it's by you before you don't even know what you saw. So people get inundated with over 4,000 to 10,000 marketing messages a day in our society from all different means. So we're all on information overload. The mail is the one thing that people can slow down a little bit and maybe get a chance to get their attention. So
that's it. Yeah. If you can master attention,
yep,
you can change your bank account. Yep. That is for sure. Man, we covered a lot, and Jeff and I are going to do more of these, some smaller hits on some just different ways to market to increase the number of leads that you receive on a daily basis, because that's what it all just boils down to. But just to end this particular video up, Jeff, anything else you'd like to share that we may have didn't cover in this one? You know what? Tell us about that. Just an interesting story. about the experiment you did. You wanted to just see if you could do a driving for dollars and make money.
Oh, yeah. So when I first got, this goes back, I don't remember when, 10, 15 years ago, I decided, I think it was right after the crash, because flipping got really hot right after the 2008 crash, and it's been growing ever since. Right after that, I decided I want to get back into, I told you I'd had some properties. Well, at one point I sold them all because the one bad experience I had kind of motivated me to sell all my properties. So I sold them all. I didn't do anything for a few years. Well, I decided to get back into real estate right after the crash because it seemed like a good time. So remember what I said earlier, this is when times get tough, the worst thing you do is cut your marketing. Well, it was the same idea. When after the crash happened, there's no better time to start a business and start marketing than right after something goes down. Mm-hmm. So I saw that, so I thought there was an opportunity in real estate. So I bought a course, and it was a course on how to not flip vacant houses, but how to assign vacant houses.
Wholesale.
Yeah. And so all we did, and his strategy was you go in your area and you drive and find boarded up houses and write down the address, then go into the property tax records and look up the owner and physically either call them or send them a letter saying, I'd like to buy your house. So that's what we did. And my brother was partnering with me on this, so there's two of us, and we spent about 40 hours time doing the thing, driving around, writing it down, looking it up, calling people, and out of that we got one deal, and we didn't put any money down. All we did was assign it, which meant we had a one-page contract, which basically I was the middleman, but I never exchanged any money at all. I literally got the seller to sign the contract. I assigned it immediately to the buyer at wholesale, so I didn't even touch it. Didn't even go in the place ever. We never even looked at it. It was completely a boarded up place. We never even opened the door. And made $5,000, okay? And that was it. And I had to wait for the title company to close, but when they closed, they handed me a check for $5,000, and that was it. So I took 40 hours, between my brother and I, it took us 40 hours, we kept track of it, to make $5,000. So, now I will tell you at the time, that wasn't enough for me to get me excited, because I still had this business. So it was too much time, and I was hoping that I could find a way to do that kind of automated with direct mail, and that strategy there really wasn't. You had to drive around and do the work. Mm-hmm. The point I'm trying to make is, if I was broke at the time, and I had nothing else to do, I just got in the real estate business with 40 hours of labor with zero money invested, okay? And didn't even have to have any cash. All I did was find the deal and find a buyer and put the two together and made $5,000 in between.
That's it.
That's all it was.
That's it. But just to round it up, anything you want to share additionally to just let them know the importance of continuously marketing, regardless of what it is?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate what I said already, and that's establish a marketing budget. The most important thing is establish a monthly marketing budget, something that's going to give you at least enough leads that you got something to work. And I would recommend starting at 1,000. So the lowest point, let's just say $500. Establish a budget of $500 a month and just do it every single month. So that's $6,000 a year. Invest $6,000 in yourself, but it's not all at once. It's once a month, and just do it. And then when you get the leads are valuable. When you get the leads, you better do the best you can to work those leads to make sure you do everything you can to close those deals. Because we see this all the time too. We do mailings with people, and we generate leads, and you have to call them up and say, how's it going? Oh yeah, I haven't had time to call those people. We just paid money to get a bunch of leads, and you're not even calling them. That's the dumbest thing you could ever do. Okay.
You look at when I did my second run with you, I spent quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I got one deal, and it more than covered it. I did a video on it, but I got overwhelmed. I didn't know. I wasn't set up for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to happen again. But I wasn't set up for it, so that was me.
And he started a little bit larger too. That's why I got overwhelmed. So you don't have to do that, but. If you're going to mail 1,000 pieces, you're not going to get overwhelmed.
No, you won't get overwhelmed. Yeah, you won't get overwhelmed with that. So, well, man, this has been very informative for me. Hopefully for you. And as I said, Jeff and I are going to do more of these, and some of the guys here at the company. And guys, there's no magic wand that I'm waving, or anyone that Jeff deals with around the country. We all know that it just boils down to, are you talking to enough property owners? It's just really that. So again, I really appreciate Jeff giving us his time, and as I always say, guys, we'll see you on the flip side.